If you enjoy stories about unfaithful husbands, this channel is for you. Leave a like and support us by subscribing to the channel. I used to think we had it all figured out. Daniel and I were that couple everyone envied, the ones who still held hands at dinner parties, who finished each other's sentences, who made marriage look effortless. We lived in a charming Victorian house in Portland, Oregon, with our golden retriever, Copper, and a garden I'd spent years cultivating. From the outside, our life looked like something out of a magazine spread. Daniel was a successful architect, commanding respect at his firm downtown. I taught high school English, finding purpose in shaping young minds. We had date nights every Friday, took annual trips to the coast, and hosted backyard barbecues where friends would toast to our relationship goals. I believed in us. I believed in the story we were telling. But looking back now, I see what I couldn't, or wouldn't, see then. The perfect facade was already cracking, hairline fractures spreading beneath the surface like a windshield about to shatter. It started small. Daniel began working late more frequently, his phone perpetually face down on the counter. He'd shower immediately after coming home, claiming the office air conditioning made him feel grimy. When I'd ask about his day, his answers grew vague, distracted. Just the usual chaos, he'd say, already scrolling through his phone. Our Friday date nights became negotiable. I'm exhausted, babe. Can we just order in? The trips to the coast were postponed, then forgotten. In bed, he turned away more often, claiming stress from a demanding project. I told myself it was temporary. Every marriage has phases, right? I made excuses, filled the silence with my own rationalizations. I watered my garden, graded papers, and pretended not to notice the distance growing between us, a chasm I couldn't yet name but could definitely feel. The unease crept in like fog rolling off the Willamette River, slow, persistent, impossible to ignore. I started noticing things I'd previously dismissed as quirks or coincidences. Daniel's cologne changed. He'd worn the same woody scent for our entire 8-year marriage, but suddenly he switched to something sharper, more expensive. Thought I'd try something new, he said with a shrug when I mentioned it. But it felt deliberate, like he was dressing for someone else's preferences. His gym routine intensified. 3 mornings a week became 5, then 6. He bought new workout clothes. Protein shakes cluttered our kitchen counter, and he scrutinized himself in the mirror with an intensity I'd never seen before. Just taking better care of myself, he explained, avoiding my eyes. Then, there were the absences. A weekend conference in Seattle that he'd never mentioned before. Drinks with clients that stretched past midnight. A sudden need to help his colleague Mark move apartments on a Sunday. Our Sunday. The one day we'd always protected for each other. I tried talking to him one evening over dinner. Daniel, I feel like we're drifting apart. Can we talk about what's going on? His response was immediate, almost rehearsed. You're being paranoid, Claire. I'm just busy at work. Why are you always so needy lately? Needy. The word stung like a slap. I'd never been needy. I'd always been independent, supportive, understanding. But he said it with such conviction that I actually wondered if he was right. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was being insecure for no reason. That night, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket while doing laundry. Dinner for 2 at an upscale restaurant downtown. A restaurant we'd never been to together. The date was from last Tuesday, when he'd told me he was working late. My hands trembled as I held the paper. I didn't plan to go through his phone. I'm not that person, or at least I wasn't. But the receipt haunted me for 3 days, burning a hole in my pocket where I'd hidden it. Thursday night, Daniel fell asleep on the couch during a movie, his phone resting on his chest, rising and falling with each breath. My heart hammered as I carefully lifted it. I knew his passcode, our anniversary, but my fingers shook so badly I mistyped twice. On the 3rd try, the screen unlocked. The messages loaded, and my world tilted sideways. Her name was Jessica, a junior architect at his firm. The texts went back months, flirty at first, then explicit, then routine. Mundane conversations mixed with plans to meet, declarations that made my stomach turn. Can't wait to see you tonight. Last night was incredible. She suspects nothing. She suspects nothing. I scrolled with numb fingers, each message a knife twist. Photos exchanged, intimate details of their encounters, complaints about me. I was distant, cold, didn't understand him anymore. He'd rewritten our entire marriage to justify this betrayal. I must have made a sound because Daniel stirred. His eyes opened, focused on me holding his phone, and something flickered across his face. Not guilt, but annoyance at being caught. Claire, how long? My voice sounded strange, hollow. He sat up, running his hand through his hair. "It's not what you think." "How?" "Long. 6 months." He said it so casually, like he was telling me how long he'd been working on a project. "But Claire, you need to understand." "Understand?" The word came out as a strangled laugh. "Understand what, Daniel?" He looked at me then, and what I saw in his eyes terrified me more than the infidelity itself. There was no remorse, only calculation. "This is partially your fault," he said quietly. The words hung in the air like poison gas. "This is partially your fault." I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. "My fault? You cheated on me for 6 months and it's my fault?" Daniel stood, suddenly animated, his voice taking on a tone I'd never heard before. Sharp, aggressive, accusatory. "When was the last time you really looked at me, Claire? When did you last initiate anything between us? You're always buried in your students' essays, your garden, your book club. I've been invisible to you for years. That's not true." "It is true." He was pacing now, building momentum. "I've been lonely in this marriage, Claire. You shut me out emotionally. I needed connection, intimacy, someone who actually saw me. Jessica listens to me. She makes me feel appreciated." My mind reeled. Was this really happening? Was he actually turning his betrayal into my failure? "So, instead of talking to me, you slept with someone else?" My voice cracked. "I tried talking to you. You were always too tired, too busy, too focused on everything except us. What was I supposed to do? Just accept being neglected?" Neglected. The word hit like a physical blow. I thought about all the dinners I'd cooked, the shirts I'd ironed, the interest I'd shown in his projects, the way I'd supported his career moves, hosted his colleagues, celebrated his victories. "You're rewriting history," I whispered. "No, I'm telling you the truth you've refused to see. This didn't happen in a vacuum, Claire. You pushed me away. You made our home cold and unwelcoming. Jessica just filled the void you created. I felt reality shifting beneath my feet, like standing on ice that was cracking in every direction." He sounded so certain, so convinced. Could he be right? Had I been blind to my own failures? Sleep became impossible. I'd lie awake replaying every moment of our marriage, dissecting my behavior with surgical precision. Had I been cold? Distant? Too focused on work? Daniel's words echoed constantly. "You pushed me away. You made our home unwelcoming. You neglected me." I started second-guessing everything. That night last month when I'd been too exhausted for intimacy, had that been the moment I'd failed him? The weekend I'd spent grading papers instead of hiking with him, was that when he'd turned to her? The worst part was how reasonable he made it sound. During our tense conversations, he'd speak calmly, almost therapeutically. "I'm not excusing what I did, Claire. I'm just trying to help you understand the context. Relationships are complicated. We both played a role in this breakdown. We both played a role." He'd say it so matter-of-factly that I found myself nodding, absorbing the blame like a sponge. I stopped calling my best friend Maya. She'd started asking questions. "Why do you look so tired? Is everything okay with Daniel?" I couldn't face telling her the truth, couldn't bear seeing the pity in her eyes. More importantly, I feared she'd challenge Daniel's version of events, and I wasn't ready for that cognitive dissonance. My mother called one Sunday. "You sound off, sweetheart. What's wrong?" "Just stressed with work," I lied, while Daniel watched from across the room, his expression unreadable. I began apologizing constantly. Sorry for being tired. Sorry for not being more attentive. Sorry for existing in ways that apparently drove him into another woman's arms. He'd accept these apologies with magnanimous nods. "I appreciate you acknowledging that, Claire. Growth requires self-awareness." I was drowning in doubt, questioning my own memories, my own perceptions. The confident woman who'd once known her worth was disappearing, replaced by someone desperate to fix whatever was broken inside her. Daniel became strategic about isolating me from anyone who might challenge his narrative. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. When Maya texted inviting me to our monthly dinner, Daniel frowned. "Again? You just saw her 2 weeks ago. Don't you think you're prioritizing your friends over working on our marriage?" I canceled. Maya sounded hurt, confused. "Claire, you've canceled 3 times now. What's going on?" "Things are just complicated right now," I said vaguely. "Complicated how?" "Talk to me." But Daniel was in the next room, and I could feel his presence like a weight. "I can't right now. I'll call you later." I never did. My sister Rebecca was next. She'd always been protective, perceptive. During a family video call, she zeroed in immediately. "You look exhausted, Claire, and you're too quiet. What's Daniel done?" "Nothing," I said too quickly. Everything's fine. Bullshit. You're my sister. I know when something's wrong. Daniel appeared behind me on camera, his hand on my shoulder. Possessive, controlling. Hey, Rebecca. Claire's just been under stress at work. You know how she gets overwhelmed easily. I gets overwhelmed easily. Another rewrite. I'd always been the calm one, the steady one. After the call, Daniel's tone shifted. Your sister has never liked me. She's always looking for problems that don't exist. She's toxic, Claire. She'll poison you against me if you let her. I found myself avoiding Rebecca's calls. At school, my colleague Jennifer noticed I'd stopped joining them for lunch. You okay? You seem different. I'm fine, I said automatically. Daniel's words in my head. People love drama. Don't air our private business. One by one, my connections frayed. Daniel insisted it was about protecting our privacy and focusing on healing our relationship. But really, he was building walls around me, cutting off anyone who might see through his manipulation. I was alone with him now, exactly where he wanted me. Daniel became a master architect of false memories, reconstructing our past to support his version of events. Remember our anniversary 2 years ago? He'd say casually over breakfast. You forgot to make reservations, and we ended up at that mediocre Italian place. I was so disappointed, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to hurt your feelings. I blinked, confused. That's not what happened. You were working late, and I scrambled to find somewhere last minute. You thanked me for being flexible. He smiled indulgently, like I was a child misremembering. Claire, I was there. I think I'd remember my own anniversary. This is part of the problem. You rewrite things to make yourself the hero. It happened again and again. Small revisions, constant contradictions. You never supported my promotion to senior architect. You said I was prioritizing work over family. I never said that. I was proud of you. You literally said those exact words at Sarah and Tom's barbecue last summer. Had I? The memory felt blurry now, uncertain. He sounded so specific, so confident. He'd reference conversations I couldn't recall, twist words I'd said into meanings I'd never intended. When I protested, he'd sigh heavily. This is gaslighting yourself, Claire. You're so committed to being the victim that you're inventing a completely different reality. Gaslighting. He actually used that word, weaponizing it against me while doing exactly that. He started keeping evidence. Once, during an argument, he pulled out his phone. I've been documenting your mood swings, your irrational accusations. Look, 17 instances in the past month where you've been emotionally unstable. I stared at the notes app, dates and times listed with clinical precision. You've been tracking me? I'm protecting myself from your distortions, he said calmly. When you inevitably try to paint me as the villain, I'll have proof of your instability. I felt my grip on reality loosening, like sand slipping through desperate fingers. I stopped recognizing myself in the mirror. The woman staring back had hollow eyes, shadows beneath them like bruises. I'd lost 12 pounds without trying. My hands shook constantly. At school, I forgot lesson plans mid-class. Students exchanged worried glances as I stood frozen at the whiteboard, my mind completely blank. Principal Harrison called me into her office. Claire, your performance has declined significantly. Students are concerned. Are you all right? I'm fine, I heard myself say. The lie came automatically now. You don't seem fine. Is something happening at home? Daniel's voice in my head. Don't air our private business. It makes you look unstable. Just personal stress. I'll handle it. The breaking point came on a Wednesday evening. I was cooking dinner. Chicken piccata, Daniel's favorite, because I was always trying to do enough, be enough. He came home, looked at the table I'd carefully set, and frowned. Chicken again? We just had chicken 3 days ago. We had salmon 3 days ago, I said quietly. No, Claire. It was chicken. You're so forgetful lately. Honestly, I'm worried about you. Something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. A small fissure letting in a sliver of light. I walked to the calendar on our fridge, pointed to Monday's notation in my handwriting. Salmon, lemon dill. Daniel barely glanced at it. You probably wrote that wrong. You've been so scattered. And there it was. Even faced with physical evidence, he wouldn't concede. Because this wasn't about truth, it was about control. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. Not the man I'd married, but someone who'd systematically dismantled my confidence, my relationships, my sense of self, all to avoid accountability for his own choices. I can't do this anymore, I whispered. Can't do what? Cook dinner? He laughed dismissively. This. Us. Any of it. His expression hardened instantly. You're being dramatic again. But for the first time in months, I didn't believe him. The next morning, I called in sick and did something I should have done months ago. I made an appointment with Dr. Sarah Chen, a therapist whose card Maya had slipped into my purse weeks earlier. Sitting in her calm, plant-filled office, I told her everything. The affair, Daniel's accusations, my crushing self-doubt. The words poured out like a dam breaking. Doctor. Chen listened without interruption, taking occasional notes. When I finished, she leaned forward. Claire, what you're describing is textbook psychological abuse. It's called DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. The person who caused harm denies it, attacks the actual victim, and positions themselves as the one who's been wronged. I felt something shift inside me. Recognition. Validation. He's been gaslighting you, she continued, making you question your own perceptions, your memories, your reality. None of what happened is your fault. Infidelity is a choice, not an inevitable consequence of marital imperfection. Tears streamed down my face. But what if he's right? What if I was cold, distant? Even if you were, which I doubt, that doesn't justify betrayal. Healthy adults communicate problems. They don't cheat, and then blame their partner for their own choices. That afternoon, I called Maya. She answered on the first ring. Claire, God, I've been so worried. I need to tell you something. I interrupted. And I need you to just listen. I told her everything. When I finished, there was a long silence. That manipulative son of a bitch, Maya finally said, her voice shaking with anger. Claire, he's been systematically isolating and breaking you down. This isn't love. This is abuse. Hearing it from someone who loved me, someone with no agenda except my well-being, cracked something open inside me. I think I need to leave him, I said aloud for the first time. Yes, Maya said firmly. You absolutely do. Leaving wasn't dramatic. There was no screaming match, no thrown belongings. I simply started planning methodically, reclaiming the competence Daniel had convinced me I'd lost. I opened a separate bank account, consulted a divorce attorney, documented everything. His messages with Jessica, his contradictory statements, the timeline of his manipulation. Dr. Chen helped me see patterns I'd been too close to recognize. When I finally told Daniel I wanted a divorce, his mask slipped completely. First came denial. You're overreacting. Every marriage has rough patches. Then anger. You're throwing away 8 years over one mistake. Then bargaining. I'll end it with Jessica. We'll go to couples therapy. I'll do whatever it takes. Finally, when nothing worked, he tried the old playbook. You're too unstable to make this decision. You need help, Claire. I'm concerned about your mental state, but I'd learned to trust myself again. I'm the clearest I've been in months, I said calmly. The divorce took 6 months. Daniel fought me on everything. Money, the house, even copper. But I had evidence, witnesses, and most importantly, I had myself back. Maya helped me move into a small apartment with hardwood floors and morning light. Rebecca flew in to help me unpack, crying and hugging me. I knew something was wrong. I should have pushed harder. He isolated me on purpose, I told her. That wasn't your fault. Therapy continued. Some days were harder than others. I had to relearn trusting my own judgment, recognizing red flags, believing my experiences were valid. A year later, I'm teaching again, fully present, engaged, alive. I've started dating cautiously, with boundaries I never knew I needed. I share my story in support groups, watching recognition dawn in other women's eyes. The gaslighting broke me, but I rebuilt myself stronger, wiser, unshakable, and I did it on my own terms. Leaving wasn't dramatic. There was no screaming match, no thrown belongings. I simply started planning with a clarity that shocked me. The competence Daniel had convinced me I'd lost was still there, waiting. I opened a separate bank account, transferring money quietly. I consulted a divorce attorney who looked at my documentation and said, "You have a strong case." I recorded conversations where Daniel contradicted himself, saved his manipulative texts, compiled everything Dr. Chen helped me recognize as evidence of systematic abuse. When I finally told Daniel I wanted a divorce, his reaction was textbook. He cycled through every manipulation tactic like a desperate actor trying different scripts. You're overreacting. Every marriage has problems. You'll never find anyone who loves you like I do. I'll end things with Jessica. We can fix this. Then, when nothing worked, You're mentally unstable, Claire. No lawyer will take you seriously. I have documentation of your irrational behavior. I looked at him calmly. This stranger wearing my husband's face. Then show it to the judge. I'll show them yours. Something flickered in his eyes. Fear. He'd underestimated me so completely. The divorce took 8 brutal months. But I had Maya sleeping on my couch during the hardest nights. Rebecca flew in twice, holding me while I cried and doubted and wondered if I'd ever feel whole again. Dr. Chen reminded me weekly, healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel strong. Others, you'll question everything. Both are part of recovery. She was right. Some mornings I woke up empowered. Others, I'd find myself wondering if I'd overreacted. If Daniel had been right about me all along. Those were the days I'd reread my journal entries from the worst months, seeing the patterns I couldn't see while drowning in them. A year after I moved out, I stood in my small sun-filled apartment, truly mine, paid for with my salary, decorated with my choices. No one to question my memories here. No one rewriting my reality. I started volunteering at a domestic abuse support center. The first time I shared my story, a woman in her 40s started crying. I thought I was going crazy, she whispered. He says the exact same things. You're not crazy, I told her, holding her hands. And you're not alone. I learned that gaslighting leaves invisible scars, wounds that reopen when you least expect them. Dating again was terrifying. The first time a kind man contradicted something small I'd said, I felt panic rise. But I'm learning to distinguish healthy disagreement from manipulation, to trust my instincts without second-guessing everything. Some nights, I still replay moments, wondering what I could have seen sooner. Dr. Chen says that's normal. Survivors often blame themselves for not escaping faster. But I'm learning self-compassion too. The woman Daniel tried to erase doesn't exist anymore. She was too trusting, too willing to doubt herself. The woman I am now, she knows her worth. She trusts her reality. She won't apologize for taking up space. I rebuilt myself from the ruins of who I thought I had to be. And this time, I built something unbreakable. Thank you for watching until the end. Your support is very important. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.